The first thing you're covering, very same story. It's to do with the French elections. What about the international papers? What do they say?
Well, this French Senate turning to the left is so historical, it's even made it into the New York Times. They say, as a lot of the French papers were saying, that this is perhaps not the best test of voter opinion because it's voted for by local officials, people who've been elected to municipal governments. But nevertheless, it's a bad sign for Sarkozy. And they say, as the French papers were, that one of the main reasons this has happened are all these corruption scandals swirling around Nicolas Sarkozy. We've had the suitcases of cash his friends supposedly took from arms deals to Pakistan, the suitcases of cash he supposedly received from African presidents, and the envelopes of cash he's alleged to have received from France's richest woman, Liliane Bettencourt. So the New York Times explains all of that for foreign readers who might not have heard of it, and says that all of this does actually put his re-election bid next year in some serious doubt.
Indeed. Well, we shall see what happens. We're going to go on to Libya now. In the news bulletin, we've been telling you about NTC forces trying desperately to regain control of Sirte. New York Times, they're talking about trying to unite Libya and the difficulties that will pose.
Yes, they say really that even once they've captured Sirte and it's geographically united, the political divisions are such that there's not much chance of it being united anytime soon in any true political sense. The NTC still hasn't announced a cabinet. That's because there's at least 3 different geographical groups, one based in Benghazi in the east, one in Misrata and one in the west, up in the mountains there, who all say they've got an equal claim to have more ministerial posts than the other factions because they all fought harder in the war. And lots of them are now calling for the interim Prime Minister Gibril to go. They say he's not representative enough, so an actual unified Libyan government might still be a long time coming.
And talking Libya, the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, he's attracting some bad press over his connections to Gaddafi.
Yes, let's have a look at The Guardian, but this is in all the British papers today because there's a Channel 4 documentary being broadcast this evening which reveals some more embarrassing things about Blair's connections to Gaddafi. We knew they were friends, but now the papers say that he visited Gaddafi in 2009 while the investment bank that pays him £2 million a year as an advisor, JP Morgan, was trying to broker loans to Gaddafi. So did he intervene there? The Guardian alleges he did. They also allege he intervened on behalf of clients of JP Morgan, corporate clients in Palestine. He intervened with the Israeli government, they say, to try and get them to sign gas and telecoms deals relating to the West Bank on behalf of corporate clients of JP Morgan. So that looks not particularly good for his credibility as Middle East envoy.
And The Guardian's getting lots of mentions today. They're also looking at Vladimir Putin, his announcement he's going to be running for the presidency in 2012.
Yes, this piece has a nice headline, Batman returns, they say, relating to the fact that Medvedev was accused of being Robin to Putin's Batman. And this is written by The Guardian's correspondent Luke Harding, who managed to upset the Kremlin so much that about 6 months ago he became the first official correspondent for a foreign media organisation to be expelled from Russia. But he has some interesting insight today. He says that the West can now prepare for a decade of terrible relations with Putin as his contributions to international summits tended to be restricted to sardonic remarks, he said, and Russia can prepare for a decade of stagnation as more and more young people decide to leave the country. He also says, interestingly, that Putin might be sick of being president, but he's hanging on to power because he's worried that losing the immunity you get from being president or prime minister in Russia might lead to legal consequences, and he also needs to keep his secret assets secret.
And we can talk about the economy now. We've been talking for a while, of course, about the euro problems sparking a second financial crisis. A couple of articles that Elaine has pulled out actually saying it's already here.
Yes, the Huffington Post says the double-dip recession is already here. Let's stop waiting for the Eurozone apocalypse. It's arrived because unemployment is soaring so much across the Eurozone already. They say they just need to let those countries and banks that are too heavily indebted go. They say if Greece, Italy, Portugal, Ireland can't pay their debts, we shouldn't be paying them from taxpayers' money from other Eurozone countries. Let them default. And there are signs some countries might be secretly preparing for this. There's a piece in the Irish Independent which alleges that the Irish government has already started printing new Irish punts in case they need to leave the euro. Of course, the Irish government has denied this, but the Irish Independent says there's no smoke without fire.
Elena, thanks very much. That's Elena there with the International Paper Review. Just before the headlines, we're going to bring you some breaking news just coming into us, actually, that one US citizen